Start recording. And we're going to welcome everybody to our virtual learning communities facilitator training. Thank you all for taking a few minutes out of your day. I know it's busy and hard to fit everybody in, but we really appreciate the fact that you've done this. Amber and I are really excited about our virtual learning communities, which is our new professional development initiative that we're starting. And we're happy that you guys are going to be part of our pilot by kind of shadowing us through this facilitation process and looking forward to what that might look like in the future. So we want to just do a very fast overview of why we're doing these virtual learning communities, what's the rationale behind them, and what are they going to entail. And then please feel free to ask any questions. The main rationale behind the virtual learning communities is that we have changed the standards proficient training for ABE-ASC and shortened it down now that there's only one day of face-to-face training, and we have condensed a little bit of the tools and the information so that we could get it down to 14 PD hours. This was in response to concerns from administrators related to budget, related to timing, and so we're trying to get as many people through standards proficient as we can and still keep it relevant and important and vital, but address those real concerns. So we've shortened that training, and in response to that, Amber and I felt very strongly that we needed to offer kind of a follow-up PD to standards proficient credentialed instructors. So once they've done their standards proficient, the idea is that they can then join a VLC in a later semester and kind of repeat and refresh with some of the tools and materials that they used in standards proficient training to get a kind of a reboot of those ideas and to practice using them, as well as interact with other teachers again, like they did in their face-to-face training. So any ABE-ASC standards proficient instructor will have the opportunity to join these virtual learning communities. For this particular fall semester pilot that we're doing, we had asked some teachers, hey, is this something you're interested in, through a survey? And so we invited people who specifically said, yeah, this sounds cool, I'd like to do it. So we kind of target invited our pilot group for fall. It will be open to anyone starting in the spring. So that's a rationale and an overview of why we're doing virtual learning communities, aside from the fact that doing collaborative virtual PD has so many benefits to teachers. It's time friendly. It's 4 hours. It's location friendly because they can do it from their home or work. And it's also giving them a chance to work with other teachers, which keeps us from feeling siloed, as we often do. So that's just a little bit of an overview of the why. Here is something you have probably seen in an email from Amber or myself, which is an overview of what our first cohort will look like. And we just want to point out what the participants will be doing. They'll be getting into their Canvas VLC course in November 4th through the 10th. It'll open to them on the 4th, and they'll be able to look around, read the information pages, do some review of standards proficient tools, and then there will be an independent work assignment for analyzing a lesson that they will do during the week of November 11th. That lesson will be on the language arts cohort, something specifically that I've chosen that has some gaps, has some weaknesses, but has some strengths. And Amber's done the same for the math cohort. And each cohort will be looking at a specific lesson. It's different from anything they have seen in training. And they'll be submitting their checklist, basically the pink checklist, right? The idea of what's missing, where are the weaknesses, where are the gaps. They'll be doing that. And then we'll facilitate an online discussion the week of November 18th. They will get PD credit for that as well. And what they will do is we'll prompt discussion questions, and we will ask the participants to offer a specific number of discussion thread participations. They'll then do an actual revision of that lesson that we've been talking about in that discussion during the week of November 25th, and they will actually do the revision template that we talk about in training, and they will work on that on their own, or we offer them the opportunity that they can collaborate with another person in their cohort. And then finally, on Friday, December 6th at time to be determined, we'll hold a live webinar, and everyone will participate in that, where we discuss basically how the revision went, kind of the decisions we all made about what we revised based on our discussion. And there's some of that critical friends group component will happen there during that live webinar. They'll earn 4 PD hours for each of these components, and that makes up the VLC. And we'll encourage people to repeat it because they'll be different every time we do them, the different materials, different groups, etc. So this is our first pilot attempt. Amber and I are really excited to see how it goes, and you guys will be helping us as we move through this, potentially facilitating groups of your own in the future. But at this point, certainly doing work with us to, whoa, something happened on my screen. Amber, I'm going to throw it to you because Amber's going to take over here and do some display for you related to the Canvas course and what it looks like and what you guys might be doing as you're shadowing us through this pilot. So I'll give it to you, Amber.
Thanks. Can you see my screen, Anita?
I sure can.
Good. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today. And as Anita said, we're just trying to orient you guys into not only what the participants are going to go through, but what we are hoping that you will do as we are moving through this pilot phase. And then there's, like as Anita said, there is potential to do this on your own, and we're kind of work for us as contractors facilitating these virtual learning communities if they're successful. So this is Canvas. Some on the screen is Canvas. Mine looks different than yours, probably because if you have one, because I have lots of courses in my Canvas course. If you, depending on when you last did Standards Proficient or Specialist, you may not have done anything in Canvas. You might have done all of your coursework in iLearn. If you're not familiar with Canvas, it is a learning management system. So if you use anything like Brightspace or D2L or Blackboard or, what's the other one I was thinking of? Any of those learning management systems, then Canvas is a version of a learning management system, and we are using the free version. So if you have a Canvas account, pretty soon here, next week, once we've done both the trainings for our facilitators, we will send you an invite to be able to access the Canvas course for the virtual learning community. And within that invite, you will have special permissions so that you can view what we need you to view. So let me show you on your dashboard screen. You'll have, depending on how you use Canvas, you will likely just have at least the one VLC course. So this is the dashboard course. So I'm going to click on the math one. If you are helping us on the language arts side, it is going to be the same. So everywhere you see math, just substitute language arts. They mirror each other very closely, and that's very intentional. So the assignments are even the same, just using the different tools and using different lessons. So as we go through, just if you are doing the language arts, you'll note where it says math, just substitute language arts, please. So this is the home page for the course, and this is what a teacher sees. So you are all going to be given permissions to be a teacher within the course. So you get to see a few things that not everyone else gets to see, as far as the participants will see. Down on the left-hand side are the different components of the cohort or the VLC, and I'll let you explore these kind of on your own. You can look through each of these. There is no syllabus. Some of these are irrelevant for us. In the middle is where you're going to find things like the welcome message, the meeting the facilitator, what requirements are, or what is required of the VLC participants, and then a place for introductions to happen. This is also where you'll see a place for them to submit their assignment, submit their discussion questions, and even attend the live webinar. And the live webinar is actually being hosted right in Canvas. So this is new for Anita and I as well. We've always hosted webinars through GoToMeeting, but Canvas has a webinar live meeting feature within their service, and we want to try it out. So this is kind of a quick overview of what's in here. There's a wrap up and next steps. But I want to highlight some things that you will be using this fall as you shadow this particular virtual learning community. So there's a few things. The first of which is and we're going to talk about the expectations of you, but one of the things we'd like you to do is, of course, view all of the pages. But when you are facilitating for a virtual learning community, we would like you to be able to look at their submissions of work and give feedback on them. So I want to show you what that looks like. When you click on an assignment, it comes up with the assignment information. And then over here on the right-hand side, do you see the speed grader? This allows you to view all of the submissions for that particular assignment at the same time. So this is just an example. I just submitted something. This is what it will look like. And here you'll be able to see whatever document was uploaded for that particular student. Up on the top right-hand side, you're going to see you can navigate between students. So this drop-down menu will have all the students listed, and you can navigate between them. And then there are, on the right-hand side here, you can see what documents they uploaded. You can give them a grade, and you can do comments. So for the fall pilot, we're going to ask that you shadow. So you are taking a look at assignments that are submitted, but then also taking a look at the feedback that Anita and I are providing for the participant. We would like you guys to note how we're replying to the participants, what are some things that we're pointing out, and so on and so forth, so that eventually you could do this and facilitate this on your own. We could turn it over to you. So this is what it looks like when someone submits an assignment. Before I move too far forward, does anyone have any questions about that? About the submitting an assignment or the feedback? Okay. We find that Canvas is pretty intuitive. There are a lot of things that you can do. I mean, if you really don't want to type, you can submit a media comment. You can give them a video about their assignment, which is pretty awesome. But you can look at everyone's at the same time, which is nice. You can just scroll through them. And then to get back to where the main page is, it actually opens up a new tab for you. So you can just go back to the home. And then here, I want to show you what it looks like when there's a discussion. So we're calling this the checklist discussion. And I've just put a reply in here for the sake of showing you what it looks like. This is probably going to be our first prompt here. Note it says it's a graded discussion, and this is also threaded. So there's a post here from Amber F., the test student, and other participants can reply to those people, or they can just reply to the discussion post. So either way, again, what we're going to be looking for is for you to be reading and monitoring these discussion posts so that you can get a sense for how, and again, Anita and I are responding to discussion posts, but also how to facilitate a discussion, which is its own art form when you're talking about a virtual community, right? We've all been, I think, I can assume we've probably all been in some sort of course where the discussion was really lively, and then we've all probably been in some sort of course or online community where the discussion just fell flat on its face. And really, in the research that I have done recently, it has a lot more to do with the feedback that's given, the amount of time that it's given in, and then also the questions that are being asked as to whether the discussion is going to be successful. So as you are shadowing within the fall, those are the two main pieces that you're going to want to take a look at within the weeks that they're assigned. You'll notice that there are deadlines here for those participants, and when the live webinar is announced, it will have the contact information here too. It will definitely be on that Friday. We're just not sure time. We're going to try and see how many of them we can get on the same time. So as we're moving, let me see if I forgot something here. As we're moving through Canvas, and this is what it kind of looks like I said before, we are going to have you have teacher access. So you should be able to view all the materials and the participant submissions as they come through. One thing that I don't think we've mentioned yet, Anita, is that with the new standards proficient training that is coming out this fall, the tools have changed a little bit. And so we are going to be using the new tools. That's correct, right, Anita?
Yes, I believe so.
We probably sound unsure because we're a little bit like we're still figuring out some of these things too. So we're going to be using the new tools that we developed over the course of the summer. Now, they are not, the content in them is not going to look unfamiliar to you. Basically, what we did is we found lots of overlap between the 2 days of training. And so we combined the 2 tools into 1 tool. And those will be available up here so that you can view them. If you have your materials in front of you, I guess this is more of an alert. If you have your materials in front of you from your training, they might look different than what's in this VLC. But if you are well versed in the key shifts for each math or language arts, and you know what we're looking for in lessons and what we're looking for in student work and assignments, you're going to have no problem with this. So I don't want anyone to worry or fret over it. It will not look that new. It really just is the way the form is organized. Do you have anything to add, Anita, about that particularly?
No, I think you said it beautifully. And I think this first pilot chance where you're just observing at this point will be the chance for you to familiarize yourself with those new tools. And by the time you would be leading your own cohort in the future, you'll find yourself doing just fine with them. So agreed.
Okay. Well, Anita's going to talk a little bit more. Well, does anyone have any questions about Canvas or anything we've talked about so far? Okay, Anita, I'll just keep the screen and I'll advance the slides at when I think.
Your name's on these next two if you want to keep going.
Oh, thanks. Okay, yeah. I forgot. Thanks.
No problem.
We outlined some expectations for not only for participants, but also for facilitators. And we wanted to make you aware of these things. So some of the things that we're going to expect from participants is that they create a thoughtful response to a discussion board, just like you would expect your students to have. We want them to respond to other people in the discussion board because that's how you have a discussion online, right? They need to have their work completed before they come to the webinar meeting. They need to be using critical friends tone and language. And that's important as a facilitator as well, to be mindful of using the critical friends tone and language. There's also some technology skills that people will need to have in order to participate. And when they register for this VLC, our plan is to have these very clearly laid out. You need to be able to do these things in order to participate in this VLC. For instance, you need to be able to create an online free account. You need to be able to navigate a learning management system like Canvas. You need to be able to navigate discussion boards, submit assignments in an appropriate file format, use email to effectively communicate. This is a virtual learning community, so we need people that feel comfortable using the technology platforms. And we all know little things happen, but they need to feel comfortable, and we don't want the technology to get in the way of the professional development. So we also need them to have access to the webinar, which means they have to have a reliable internet source, right? We would like them to give reflective feedback on pre and post surveys. This is a pilot, so we're going to give them a pre-survey and ask them about some things, and then we're going to ask them afterwards. And then also participants are expected to complete each part of the sequence to receive the professional development hours. So if they miss a piece of the sequence of the 4 hours, then they can't continue with the cohort. So those are the expectations for the participants, which some of you might be nodding your heads thinking, well, yeah, that sounds pretty simple. But as you and I know, sometimes we have to lay down those expectations from the beginning so that people are really clear on exactly what they're getting themselves into. Now, expectations for facilitators. Now, this is where we make a little bit of a shift. Today's training is focused on what you're going to do in the fall. And as we've both said already, there's potential that if you find this work to be enjoyable, you want to continue doing it, you could lead these VLCs in the spring semester. And if that were the case, if you were one of those facilitators, then these would be your expectations, okay? So for the purposes of the fall, you would be doing these things from like a shadowing perspective, whereas in the spring, you would be doing them more independently. And those types of things are like read and respond to the participant submissions with critical feedback. Facilitate your own critical friends' tone and language. Contact participants to remind them of upcoming deadlines and assignments. Conduct webinars. So you would have to be in Anita and I's place conducting the webinar. We will provide you with the technology supports and even tech support. We wouldn't just leave you high and dry, but rather you're doing more of the facilitation than we are. You would organize the webinar schedule, and then you would also provide a summary of successes, challenges, ideas for improvement to us after each cohort. Keep in mind that these cohorts are intentionally short. We like to think of them as snacks or little bites of PD so that people can participate for a few weeks, get their 3 or 4 or their 4 hours, get their 4 hours, and then if they want to be done, they can be done, but then we can have another virtual learning communities coming right up again. So Anita and I are very big on reflection and looking at what we've done and how we can improve it, and we'd like our facilitators to be a part of that, which speaks to the very last bullet there. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts? Or I've said a lot of information, talked very fast. Okay, I wanted to give you appropriate thinking time there. So Anita's going to talk to you a little bit more about what this is, but if you have questions, please just throw them in the chat or interrupt us. This is a little bit more casual. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so one of the things that we thought we might do is in response to some of the training that Amber and I have been going through and have been thinking about relating to mentoring and coaching and developing instructional leaders and so forth, is we didn't want to just put someone in a new role like a virtual learning community facilitator and say good luck, but we wanted to provide some ongoing feedback and support for that role. And so we have found an observation form that we're going to try to use for the first time when some of our contractors, such as yourselves, choose to facilitate your own VLC, and you do so independently with support from us. We would be using a form similar to this to kind of observe how you did during that cohort, find where your real strengths are, where any areas that you felt were challenges to you that you want more support in, for instance. And that way we can make this role of VLC facilitator something that you really love, something that you feel successful with, and that you see growth in. So just for instance, let's say that at the end of your first cohort that you facilitate in the spring, you find that you had a very difficult time with the technology of the webinar or the platform. Or for instance, let's say you had a real difficult time with the discussion, the online discussion, and you really struggled to build community and conversation there. We would note that here and then talk together about ways that we could work with you to make that better the next time we try it. It could be something as simple as the way we have it formatted could be changed, or it might be something, some sort of support that you need as a facilitator that we can give you. So yes, there will be a chance for us to talk over kind of your experience at the end of each cohort and see what we can do to help give you support you need to make it better the next time. So we wanted you to realize we wouldn't, as Amber said, we're not just going to throw you out there and go, there you go, there's your VLC. We'll be available for support, for tech support, for suggestions, and also to help you evaluate. I see Jen, she's asked, will we be given an opportunity to set up the virtual classroom before doing one? And if by virtual classroom, you mean like a live webinar, like what we're doing now, would you get a chance to practice doing one? The answer is absolutely yes. The virtual classroom in terms of the Canvas material and the order in which things are set up and the content that's on there, Amber and I would be responsible for doing that. And we would kind of hand that product to you in a completed format. And then we would work together if we wanted to make changes to that Canvas course along the way. But anything that you would be doing, you would, yes, have the chance to practice. For instance, you could hold a mock webinar with us or somebody else to practice the platform and practice, hearing your voice and how do the controls work. Yeah, we could absolutely do kind of a dry run. That would be fine. And yes, Mary, no problem. We can give you slides. Yeah. Yep. And so I'm seeing Mary has asked, this provides opportunity for teachers to earn 4 PD hours of the 12 they have to have every year. And yeah, that's right. And in fact, it's possible, I guess Amber and I don't know if we've ever really clarified this with our boss, but there's no reason why you couldn't do more than one in a year since they're only 4 hours. If your boss, your administrator said, sure, I like this VLC model. If it works for you, you can do 2 of them in a year and get your 8 hours. Because one of the things that Amber and I are working toward is that the VLCs will not all look the same eventually. This model that we're using right now, with using the Standards Proficient tools and walking through an analysis and a revision of a lesson together as a cohort, we have other models that we're drafting for what that VLC work could look like, and it's not all the same. So someone could participate in like a Standards Proficient review cohort, like what we're describing here, and do that in the spring, for instance, and then in the following fall, they could participate in another VLC with a different content. And so they could actually earn more than 4 if they chose to do that. Yeah, but certainly these hours will count towards their minimum 12 required, which is another reason why Amber and I are so excited about this format, is we know how hard it is for teachers to get their PD in, and we're thinking this, with so much independent work and no travel involved, is a really positive way to get it. So yeah, so that's what we're looking at. And certainly we will be able to offer you, dry runs with the webinar, a practice in Canvas. We can even put in dummy assignments and let you practice grading them. All of that we can do as support for you as you move forward. Yeah. So that's kind of the evaluation and support piece. So on the next slide, Amber, if you'll throw it over to the next, we've got just a couple of things I just want to point out of what's coming up in the near future. One is next week, after we get the rest of our shadow people here, as we've been calling you, which is kind of weird. We've been calling you shadow people informally between Amber and myself. In our minds, meaning you're going to facilitate for us this pilot term, you're shadowing us. You and the group who are going to finish their training next Tuesday in a similar webinar, we will then send everyone their email with their Canvas course invitation in it. It will come to your the email that we sent, wherever we sent this webinar link today. It's the same email you're going to get it in. And I would encourage you next Tuesday, Wednesday, check your spam folder if you don't see an invitation from Canvas Instructure, which is the name of the program. And in that email, it will say, you've been invited to the virtual learning community course in Canvas. click here to get started, and there'll be a little blue button that basically says get started. You click there, it'll take you straight into Canvas. If you already have an account, you can use your login and get in. It will take you directly to the course. If you do not have a Canvas account, it will instantly prompt you to make one with an email and a password of your own choosing, and then it will take you again directly to the course. Okay, so watch for that next week. And then we would ask you at that point, once you're in the Canvas course next week, just to familiarize yourself, just like Amber did, kind of walk you through, read the pages, look at the content, familiarize yourself with the lesson and its tools, and then be ready. We're going to open the course on November the 4th to participants. They have a week to be familiarizing themselves. And then on the 11th, they will start working on their independent work, where they submit their completed checklist for the lesson revision. So you would then at that point start watching the grading section that Amber showed you, the speed grade, to look at people's submissions, to see how Amber and I respond. And you would be doing this within either the math or the language, whichever cohort you are choosing to shadow in. Okay, so those are your next steps. And we'd be happy, of course, to answer any questions along the way that arise. Even if you see something that you think, I wonder why they did it this way, and why did they do it this way? Please share those too, because Amber and I are very willing to make changes to this VLC process as we go, because it's a pilot, and that's what we're supposed to do. So those are next steps if you've got any questions about that. Let's see here. Mary has asked, only teaching staff that have completed Standards Proficient are able to enroll in this virtual class. Yes, you're absolutely right, Mary. We are reserving this particular VLC model for people who've been through Standards Proficient, because the idea is it's an opportunity for them to refresh and review all the things that they learned at their Standards Proficient training that maybe they feel they need review. They feel like, I haven't used that in a while, I need to apply. And so it is intended for that. If in the future we design cohorts for VLCs that are open to anyone because the model and the content is different, we would market those through our PD portal and our PD system and make sure that we let people know it's open to all. So yes, this one will be marketed just to Standards Proficient, math and language arts.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we just would open it up to you guys for any other questions. The ones you've asked so far have been, of course, wonderful and appropriate, and anything else you want to know, we're here to assist. So let us know what you've got.
Yeah, how are we going to be communicating with, so Canvas has its own messaging system that you can use, or you can communicate with us through our emails. Either way is fine. As a teacher, I have to think about this for a second. Because you have teacher permissions, you might, and I say might because I'm not positive, but I believe that the default is that whatever email your account is under, you will receive notifications when someone has submitted an assignment because you have teacher permissions. So as the cohort gets started and that first independent work becomes due, you might see an email pop up in your email that says something like, so-and-so submitted independent work, blah, 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 blah. And that would at least prompt you, oh, hey, there's something to look at within the Canvas course. And so, and then each time someone submits something, there would be a notification like that. I don't know, what I don't know is if it will do that for the discussion board. So that is kind of part of our pilot too, is to find out, I'm assuming it will provide you a notification that someone has submitted something to the discussion board, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, you're exactly right. And you don't have to go in and look at something as soon as you see an email, right? It's just an alert. Even Amber and I don't respond to them immediately when we see that we've got a new submission. I usually set aside a certain part of my day that's my Canvas time, right? So you could do the same. You could say, hey, at 4:30 today, I'm going to jump into Canvas and look around at the new submissions and the new discussions, etc. And that would probably be adequate. There's no need for on-demand instant responses to be given. Once a day is, I think, adequate. And certainly if we need to communicate with you during this fall pilot, I would imagine we'll be emailing you directly rather than using the inside of Canvas messaging, simply because you might not see it as quickly. So, but yeah, moving forward, I would imagine you'll be seeing lots of notifications from within Canvas.
Yeah, so another thing to mention is that right now this pilot cohort is pretty small. So we're not talking about 100 people that are going to be submitting things. I think under 10. Under 10 for each, under 10 for math, under 10 for language arts, because we didn't want to open this up to too many people. We really only targeted the ones that said they were interested. So this will only be, under 10 submissions of things. To answer the other question that's here out of curiosity, how many standards proficient trained in Illinois? I'm going to say about
I've got it. It's 407.
Yeah.
400. I'm looking at the other slides.
Yeah.
283 language arts, 125 math, and then there's several specialists on top of that. So yeah. And actually I think one of mine just finished recently, so it's actually 408 probably now. So yeah, there's 400 plus in the state. But Amber's right, we'll never have a gigantic cohort because we will cap it if it gets too big, because we don't want it to be unmanageable for the facilitator.
Well, and we're also trying to have this idea of you having a critical friends group. Not every program is able to have those within their program for various reasons. And so we want to be able to provide a way that people can still collaborate and learn from their practice without necessarily having to jump through the hoops at their program to get a group started. So even if that means they're working with people from other colleges, this is one way, or other programs, I should say, this is one way for them to do so. Any other questions? Those are all good ones, guys. No, everyone is good. All right. Well, that was pretty swift. Of course, sometimes questions come up later, so you can feel free to email us. Look for those emails next week for the Canvas course. To be invited to the Canvas course. Anita, what day is the second webinar? Is it Tuesday or Wednesday?
It is Tuesday at noon.
Okay, so if you do not receive a Canvas invite by Thursday morning, you should contact us and we'll figure out what's going on. But I would imagine that we will likely send those Tuesday afternoon. So if you don't receive anything from Canvas in structure, is what the sender looks like, it says Canvas in structure, by Thursday morning, feel free to reach out to us and go, hey, I didn't get an invite. And we will figure out what's going on. Sometimes it's just a typo. So,
yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, we will be sure to communicate with our director that you completed this part, right? That's important for your contracts.
That's right.
And otherwise, we'll be talking to you virtually throughout the next couple weeks. And we're so excited that you're with us. And we hope that this is a positive experience for you as it is for us.
Absolutely. And just again to say, we really have been looking at you guys as the leaders of our standards proficient innovations in this state and instructional leaders in your own programs. And so we appreciate that you're stepping out here and trying something new, and we're excited about it. So glad you're on board with us.
All right, everyone. Well, have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
All right.
Well,
Look
that
at that.
15 minutes to spare. Amazing.
Well.
Amazing. Okay. So I had one question while we were in there, and I've forgotten what it is. Oh, let me shut off the recording first.